Objectives and endpoints also appear in the Synopsis section of the CPT template. After a user has entered all their objectives and endpoints inside of Section 3 of the template, a user can then make the selections that should be updated into the Synopsis table. Upon exiting the Objectives and Endpoints table, our additional content section will update. We'll see our objectives and endpoints here and our table data appear. This is all the data that we've just entered into the table. I see my first endpoint and then my next three endpoints, my next objectives, and the following endpoints that have been added from the library. Now, as I'm looking at this section, I can see that certain endpoints have check marks while others don't. By default, all primary objectives will be selected for update for the synopsis table. If there are any secondary objectives and endpoints that I want to add into this table, by simply double clicking here, a check mark will be added. I can add the check marks and now all of this data will be inserted into the table. To update the synopsis table, I would simply hover over this refresh button that says update synopsis. You will also notice that any time that your objectives and endpoints table is not synchronized with the synopsis table, this message will appear warning a user to update the synopsis. I'll go ahead and update synopsis. I will see that it's busy. And then once the update is completed, I will be taken to the objectives and endpoints table found in the synopsis section. So here I can see all the data that I've inserted, my objectives, my endpoints, my secondary objectives, and my secondary endpoints. If I go back to section 3 and enter the data and adjust any of my endpoints, so let's say we no longer need this endpoint, upon exiting the table again, when exiting the table, it's important to exit in a free space in the template. Now I will see that my objectives and endpoints are no longer synchronized. I will have to make my selections again. And you'll notice that the default preference is set up that only every time you exit the objectives table, only primary objectives have been highlighted. So I will again need to go in and select all my secondary objectives and endpoints that I want to appear in Synopsis. Once I click this button again, the Synopsis table will update, and now that fourth endpoint that I've deleted is no longer appearing here. And this is how a user would update the Synopsis objectives and endpoints in the CPT template.